Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mr. Sanchez here coming at you guys with another lesson for geometry. This is trigonometric ratios. Yes, this video is late and I do apologize. It just, you get busy. Um, Here are our learning targets for today. Our learning targets are to understand the definition of sine, cosine, and the tangent ratios, as well as calculate the trigonometric ratios in a right triangle. Our our target is going to be describe the relationship between sine and cosine of complementary angles. We're not really going to cover this, although if you do notice this, you'll be able to notice this the more and more you do this stuff. All right, so this is some quick review. It's not really a review if you have never seen this before, but let's start with this triangle, right? A, B, C. Um, we say that little a is the opposite of angle A because it's directly across from it. You see how this on the other side? So that means that this side segment right here is opposite of A. We say that B, this side right here, is adjacent to angle A because it's right next to A. Some of you might be wondering why isn't C called adjacent to A either? And technically it is, but we don't talk about C that way because whichever C is what we call the hypotenuse. If you remember the hypotenuse right here, C is the longest side of a right triangle and is usually across the 90-degree angle on the opposite side. So adjacent, I mean opposite because on the other side of the angle, adjacent because it's right next to A, and the hypotenuse. So if I were to ask you guys, which side is opposite of B? You start at angle B and you just go straight across, right? So what's on that side? That's going to be little b. So which side opposite of B is the little b. C is still a hypotenuse. So when it comes to which side is adjacent of B, it's going to be right here, A. So that's what I mean by opposite and adjacent. Okay. And that's basically all we're going to need to know in order to go over our trigonometric ratios. The ratio of the length of two sides of a right triangle is called the trigonometric ratio. We usually just call them trig ratios for short. The three basic trig ratios are sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine is written as sin, S-I-N, but you say sine. Cosine is written as cos, but you say cosine whenever you see that. And then tangent is written as tan. And once again, you just say tangent, okay? So let's go over each one of these, what they mean in individually, all right? So let's go over sine. Sine is what we call, it's the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So in order to find sine, sine is the opposite, so A, over the adjacent, but you can get sine of A and sine of B. So if we look at for sine of A, we're looking for the opposite over the hypotenuse. Opposite of sine of A is going to be little a, right? That's the opposite. And then the hypotenuse is always going to be the long side. So I guess in this case, it's C. So sine of A is A over C. And then we're going to look at sine of B. That's this one. So sine depends on which angle you're looking at overall. So what's the opposite of B? Opposite of side of angle B is little b over the hypotenuse, which is still C. All right. And that's sine. Sine is opposite, the ratio of opposite of hypotenuse. Remember, ratio is just another way of saying ratio is a fraction, is basically what I'm trying to say. All right, now let's go over to the next problem. The next ratio is cosine, also known as cos, right? And hopefully the audio sounds better right about now, hopefully. Nope, my audio's still not better. Give me 1 sec. Let's see. This should help. Nope. Sorry for the delay. Okay. This should help out with the audio. Hopefully it sounds better. If it sounds worse, I'm sorry. They're going over cosine next. Cosine is what we have, the ratio between the adjacent side over the hypotenuse over the right triangle, right? So remember, adjacent is the side next to the angle. All right, so we do cosine of A. That's just going to be the adjacent side of it. So we have angle A, and the adjacent side is going to be B. So we do B over hypotenuse, which is still C. Okay. Next thing you're gonna have to do is cosine of B. So now the cosine of this angle is not going to be the same as cosine of the other angle. So we're gonna go this way. The adjacent side is going to be little a. All right, so little a over hypotenuse, which is still C. All right, and that's a cosine. Last but not least, we have tangent, right? Tangent is the ratio between the opposite side and the adjacent. All right, you're gonna notice that the tangent is going to be the opposite, which is A, over the adjacent, which is B. Right? And that comes from when we're talking about angle A. Tangent's opposite over adjacent. So A over B. Well, we look at angle C. Right, first let me erase this. If we look at angle B, if we look at this angle, you're gonna notice that the opposite of B is B, little b, over the adjacent, which is A. All right, and that's what we mean by tangent. It's the ratio between the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. All right, and those are the three basic trigonometric ratios. And you can remember each one of them by using something called SOHCAHTOA. All right. And if you're wondering what SOHCAHTOA means, so means sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. And I'm just gonna write off hype. Cosine is equal to the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse. And then tangent is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Right. That's how I learned it. You don't have to remember that. That's just a tool of help. Okay. Next up, we're just gonna do a problem right here. It says for triangle ABC, write the ratios in its simplest form. So they should all be in the simplest form. We're just gonna go ahead and do this really easily. All right. So we're gonna do sine of A. Right. We're gonna start at angle A. Oops, that's angle A. And wants to do sine of A. Remember, sine is opposite of adjacent. So opposite, which is 8, over the hypotenuse, which is 17. All right. Let me see what happens. Give me 1 second. Am I screen sharing? Okay, there we go. We're back. Sorry about that. All right, so we have cosine, which is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So that's 15 over 17. And then we're going to have opposite over adjacent for tangent of A. So it's going to be 18 over 5. Right? Now, if you look at this one, we're talking about angle C now. Angle C, we're looking for sine. Sine is opposite, which is 15 over the hypotenuse, which is 17. And you're gonna notice cosine of C, that's the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so 8 over 17. All right, and then tangent of C, which is gonna be opposite over adjacent, which is 15 over. All right, and that's going to be our answer. All right. However, we're gonna get some fractions, and that's fine. That's some way in the calculator. However, you can also use a calculator to find exact or estimated values of angles, right? So let's say we have sine of 48. In order to do these type of problems right here, you need to use a calculator. You can use the basic TI-30X2, which is very basically just this what you call a regular scientific calculator. It's not too crazy. All you got to do is press sine, right? You would just press sine and then 48 on the calculator. And if you do it properly, to find 48, you're gonna get, this is 0.743. And then same thing, if you press tangent of 65, you're gonna get 2.145. And if you do cosine of 12, you're going to get 0.978. All right. You want to use this type of calculator? If you use your phone, it's very awkward to use and it's not really gonna help out. But that's basically the basics of trig ratios. In class, we'll have a calculator and everything, or I'll show you how to do it on your phone. But in that, have a great day, everybody. I'm gonna end this meeting. Bye-bye. Well, not the meeting, but the lesson.